So a simple conversation unveils shocking deception. Now I'm left questioning if I've been living in a carefully constructed trap. I, female 34, have been in a relationship with Finn, male 47, for a little over a year. I live on my own and he lives on his own, but occasionally I spend the night at his place. Finn is handsome, fit, funny, and charitable. His kindness was what caught my attention. He was just a very thoughtful and kind man, and I love that about him. I have struggles with PTSD, so I don't feel comfortable with intimacy until I feel safe and trust that person. Finn said he understood and didn't press it. We didn't start getting intimate until 2 months in, but I was pretty drunk, so I was upset the next morning, and he comforted me. He didn't get angry or blame me at all. After that, we had a healthy sex life. I was adamant he wears protection every time. Once, while we were in the middle of playtime, he asked if he could take the condom off. I said no, and he said that it wasn't feeling good to him and he is unable to climax with one on. I said no again. Afterwards, he didn't cuddle or hold me like he always did and said nothing to me. I got up to get water and asked if he needed anything and leaned over to kiss his cheek. He shied away from my kiss and muttered, "Oh, now you care about me?" I asked him what that was about, and he told me he bends over backwards to make me happy, but he didn't get to feel good because I won't let him not wear a condom. I told him I am very worried about pregnancy. I live in a place where abortions are extremely difficult. He said I am on birth control, so what's the issue? I said that's not 100%, and he knew it. I grabbed him some water and told him that if he got a vasectomy, we could talk. They are reversible and accessible. I just cannot get pregnant. We didn't discuss it again, and he even apologized for being a jerk the very next morning and took me to the spa. I apologized for ruining the night, and he said it was all right, and we kind of moved on. Everything was great, and around the 6-month mark, he said he thinks we are getting serious and that he considers me his partner and asked about the condoms again. I reminded him of my requirement for that, and he said he had to think about it. About 2 months ago, he had a work trip that lasted a week and a half, and when he returned, he was all over me. At the time, I was going through a difficult depression. I suffer from depression, and sometimes it gets really bad. He seemed annoyed and made a remark that I am punishing him for missing and loving me so much, and he held my face and started kissing me again. After the back and forth for a few more minutes, I just gave up and we had sex. In the middle of it, he asked if he could take off the condom and I said no. But he said he had the vasectomy. He was so excited to get me in bed he had forgotten to tell me. I stupidly said, well, all right then. After that, he would forget the condemnation altogether until my cycle was off. At first, I figured it was stress, change in diet, a billion other possible reasons, but this nagging feeling came over me and I got tested, pregnant. He found me crying on his bathroom floor and asked what was wrong, so I told him and he smiled and laughed like, "Really? That's amazing, baby." And left me there and he went whooping through the other room. When he came back, he was rattling off so much info. He had a dream about this and now it must be a sign. My brain finally caught up and I asked about the vasectomy and he said, "It's not 100% right, like condoms and pills." I was puzzled as the only goalie we took out of the equation was condoms. He said it was a miracle, and I told him absolutely not. I explained that my best friend lives in a different state and I will be going to visit and also benefit from the reproductive health clinics there. He went silent. He asked me if I really hated him that much, and I didn't understand. I said I never want to be pregnant and that he knew this about me. That hasn't changed. He became extremely angry with me, saying I wouldn't dare murder his child and that if I loved him, I would never threaten that again. He explained that he will take care of us, he makes plenty of money, and don't I treat you like a queen. So all he is asking is that I have the baby. I said I needed to go and started packing to go home, and he followed me repeating things like, "You won't though, right? You won't murder my baby?" and stuff like that. He kept asking where I was going, and I said home. I was too tired and emotional right now, and I want to go home. He stepped in the doorway and said no, and we needed to talk about this. I started to get upset as he was blocking me, and I felt trapped. I asked him to move, and he said no. I asked him again, "I want to go home," and he said no again. He said, "You are not leaving. What part of that don't you get?" I started crying and grabbed my phone and backed away from him, telling him to stay away from me. Finn looked really sad and said I couldn't be serious. He would never hurt me and asked me to stop crying. So I demanded he let me leave, and he did. He has since been calling and texting me begging me to talk to him. He says I really hurt him by pretending to be scared of him as I know he would never hurt me. He said he treats me like a goddess and I played the helpless victim card and that things like that can ruin a man's life. He then said that I wasn't thinking straight and is your brain lying to you again? When I have a PTSD or depressive episode, I sometimes say my brain is lying to me again to make it seem less heavy a topic. He has a very community-facing job, and I remembered the look on his face when I backed away. I don't want to ruin his life or our relationship. At that moment, my emotions were so high that I just reacted. But I wasn't pretending. I sat in my car for God knows how long, shaking before I could drive home. I've been ignoring his reaching out, but I feel like a coward. Am I? The A? Am I? The A has no consensus bot. OP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments on Praisal Mommy. He literally lied about getting a vasectomy and got you pregnant after you had explicitly set boundaries. OP on if she lied about birth control to her boyfriend. OP answer, I am on the patch. I never lied about that. Update. He broke up with me and called me a murderer, so I made an appointment and got the abortion. It was honestly such a horrible experience, but my bestie was with me and the whole staff were so kind and supportive, so I am grateful. Thank you to those who encouraged me to get it done. It was awful, but pregnancy and being trapped with him would have been much worse. Finn texted Wednesday and apologized and said he said things he didn't mean, and to please answer my phone, as I have been ignoring him. When he called again, my bestie recorded it all. Before I could finish hello, he went on a long bit about how amazing I am, how much he loves me, what a great mother he knows I will be, and he will marry me immediately if that's a concern of mine. When I finally got to talk, I said that I am no longer pregnant and never want to be, and that I was clear about this from the beginning. He asked if it was miscarriage and then said, because I know you wouldn't willingly murder our child, right? Say right, it's a miscarriage. I got quiet and he said that it's okay, miscarriages are not the female's fault and that we can just try again. I said again, we weren't trying to begin with. I was on BC and he had the vasectomy. And you all guessed it, he laughed and said he lied about the vasectomy, so I would give up on condoms, that he long decided I was perfect and he loved me and wanted me to be the mother of his kids. My best friend spoke up and said that was recorded and to leave me alone or she will post it on social media, and he started screaming at us. He then sounded like he was crying and said I was a witch for this, that I am a hateful murderer and that I broke his heart. He went on to say if I tried to slander him to remember, actions have consequences. He then broke up with me and said he will check back with me in a few days when I am actually alone and we will talk in person to see if I have come to my senses. He wants us to go to church together Sunday, which is now today, and set a time to pick me up. I said no, but I do have a ring cam, and sure enough, he showed up at my door. I watched him note my car was not there, and at my front door, on camera, he texted me asking if I was sleeping around on him and if I let the other man ride you like a wild horse without a condom, and if so, he gets a hall pass. He said to come home immediately as we need to come to an understanding of our relationship ASAP. I return home tomorrow and don't know what to do. Edit. Anyone who wants to shame my abortion. I have zero regrets and actually will advocate for them from now on, but I will happily mock you in the comments. Thanks, actually. You reminded me how little an opinion means to me if it's coming from a disrespectful and/or bigoted place. At least I get to laugh through this nightmare. Edit 2. I won't be going home alone any longer. My bestie is coming with me, and I have a friend in the city I live with my spare key, and he is now in my home watching it for me. Edit 3. Since I've been asked in the comments, this really blew up, so sorry if I don't reply to you all. I am in a safe location with 2 male friends who know the whole story, and we are looking into options. I don't want to do anything hasty. A guy friend is at my home, and thus far it's been quiet. I will make an update when I know more. Edit 4. No, I will not harm myself the way some of you have messaged me. For those calling themselves pro-life, you sure want me to take my own. Not very pro-life at all. And since we're on the topic, I don't want to get pregnant because I was told by my doctors that I have a high chance of passing away, even before making it to term. The child also has a high rate of mortality during the pregnancy. Essentially, we would both kick the bucket before delivery. So I'm ineligible for tubals or hysterectomy where I live until I turn 40, especially with my insurance, and I would never be able to afford the out-of-pocket fee. The places even still require a husband's signature as a policy. I would be open to adopting if I ever found the right person, and were settled and ready. Relevant comments Aquavanitas. This isn't about you getting an abortion. This is about your ex not respecting you enough to attempt baby trapping you into a long-term relationship and/or marriage. He doesn't respect you or your choices. He lied to you about having a vasectomy. He's gaslighting you and trying to control you. You need to bring that recording to the police ASAP and file for a restraining order because your ex won't stop until he's faced with the consequences of his actions. Remain vigilant. Stay safe. OP answer. Thank you, and to everyone who's been telling me this. I am starting to feel less like I am crazy and more like I need to take action and protect myself from this guy. I think I trusted him so much. I would have happily married him. He said he didn't want kids when we met. This is all a lot, but it's helping me understand more and more that I am being played sandbar Lakers. Everyone's saying get a lawyer ASAP. But she might not even be able to afford one. EOP. Is there anyone who can go home with you? I truly have you safe. Keep us posted, and not because this interesting, but because there are those of us who genuinely are concerned and care. OP answer. I can't afford one. I work in the arts and just would never be able to swing the costs I am seeing online. My bestie is returning home with me, and I have a friend at home who is house-sitting now. Mysterious. Ben 4354. Isn't the thing he did called reproductive violence? Can he be charged with rape for this? If it's possible, you should definitely go to the police and press charges against him. He's such an asshole, OP answer. This has been brought up, but it's the first I've heard of such a thing, so bestie and I are checking. Every state has its own rules, so we will see. Mine is not pro-choice friendly. Professional Zone 168. The part about him wanting you to go to church with him disturbs me. What kind of church is it? Do you think that he's being egged on by fellow church members? Please consider going to stay with a friend for a while, and then maybe with a family member or another friend after that. This dude sounds scary AF, no lie. OP answer. He goes to a mega church with a coffee shop in it, but only on holidays. I told him I did not want to participate and only went with him because he begged for Easter. It was bigger than a 90s shopping mall with a shop and everything. Update 2. I actually forgot about my post, so I apologize. I didn't even realize so many of you messaged me to check in or offer kind words. A lot happened in a short time, but I will try to make it brief. Finn came to my home again, but I was not home. So when my ring came, I saw him have a total fit. He was cursing me out, calling me on the phone, and when he got my voicemail, he muttered, "I'm going to fucking kill her," over and over again, and said it super loud once before walking off. I have been getting a lot of hate mail, texts, and the like calling me a murderer. My Facebook was flooded with these messages as well, and most of the profiles were people who went to Finn's church, so I sent him a text that either the harassment stops, or I will post the recordings of him. All of them. The call, his threats, the texts, his voicemails, all of it. He replied, "I have been patient in my love for you, but you are being a brat," and went on to say that I need to come to my senses and meet with him because he will no longer spoil me, and discipline needs to be introduced to our relationship because actions have consequences. As for the rest, I will skip over a bit for the sake of brevity. My bestie said that I should go to the police, and we did, but nothing concrete has come of it yet. Many of the people go to the church Finn is at, and that includes a lot of the police department. It came to a head last week when I sent some of the recordings to his parents who are on staff at the local megachurch in the area. So his mom responded and asked to meet with me, so I went with my bestie to a public spot in the city. So when she met with me, she was incredibly apologetic and said that his position at the church is terminated. The staff will meet about this and decide on the full measure of consequences as his church family. She told me that she herself had an abortion before Finn was born, and her decision to do so came hugely from the fact that the father was manipulative and abusive, and she was not ready to be a mother, even if she had a reliable and loving partner and co-parent. She went on to meet Finn's father and married him and had her children. She told me that she isn't sure if I had an abortion or miscarriage, but either way, I should not be harassed by Christians claiming to be pro-life. I can't explain to you the relief those words gave me considering the vile that was messaged to me. Finn's sister reached out to me via text to share that she does not condone what her brother has been doing, and to reach out if I needed anything. Finn later was arrested for assault. I came to find out, but I don't know who he assaulted or why. Just that he was taken into custody, and as he put me down as his partner, I was called to pick him up as he had been released. So the running assumption is that he kept him sober up before releasing him. I didn't. I have since been looking for a new place to live as he knows my address and has come by more than a couple times. I am staying with 2 of my best friends away from my town, and my home is more or less storage for my things until I find a place to move. All things considered, I am actually really happy. My friends threw me a Yeetus that fetus party and decorated the place with the troll comments from my last post. They made a painata with scrapped paper with his texts and that of his church pals. And instead of candy, it had condoms, small bottle of lube, and paper. That was my last surprise. They pulled together a nice-sized donation to reproductive health clinic near Mike City, and they pledged hours to volunteer. So we are taking a summer trip together to have a hot girl summer kickoff and have many things planned. The 2 male friends I am staying with check on my house for me and saw Finn there once I made it clear under no uncertain terms that I was protected, and that if he tries to make more trouble, that actions have consequences. I have it recorded on my ring cam, and it was glorious. Finn sent me a text telling me that I am a cruel witch that ruined his life and broke his heart, all because he loved me but to not trouble myself with acting. Scared of him more because he is leaving the state, soon for a new job anyway. He did end the message with, "I have do and always will love you, and perhaps one day your cold heart will melt and you can find within it your buried love for me. Like bro, take the sugar out of your Kool-Aid because I ain't drinking it anymore." Not to say everything is sunshine and roses. I have been in a lot of therapy and found that I overlooked a lot of red flags and have to unlearn a lot of people's pleasing behaviors to become a more confident and true version of myself. Plus, my friends don't really fully believe he is leaving town, so I am still staying with them for the time being. I love them a lot, but it's like having 4 older siblings fussing about like mother hens. I cannot wait to have my new place. Thanks to you all for the kindness and support. I think this is my last update on the matter, as I don't intend on wasting any more time than I have to on that abusive price of garbage. Remember, you know yourself best and can love yourself best. Life is too short not to make the right choices for yourself, your well-being, and your happiness because you matter. Comments Aquavanatus, I'm glad your ex's mother and sister are on your side, and I'm glad you have friends who are looking out for you and your safety. I know you don't want to, but keep all of the disgusting messages your ex sends you, because now that he's been charged with assault, the next time you file a police report against him, they'll have no choice but to take it seriously. Meanwhile, continue your healing process, and I hope you'll have peace soon. I'm glad you're safe. Final update, sorry, but the phrase is still funny to me. All caught up. Great. So I moved. I took a pay cut and moved to Austin. I can say that now free of worry because Finn. Well, he's in prison. For murder. I know, a disjointed rendition of what happened. Finn got drunk out of his mind at a local bar, then shit-talked a retired Marine because the Marine spoke about his wife's abortion. I had since gotten a new job in Austin, Texas, and was moving when I heard. Finn's father asked me to testify to his character and to say my abortion caused this. I obviously didn't. I moved with only the essentials and had a wonderful summer traveling with friends. I just got back last week and am now unpacking my new home. Unrelated, but Austin is a fun freaking city. When I got back and logged on, I saw a lot of you were concerned about my safety, so I wanted to update. I'm totally okay, already have new friends, and am going to adopt possibly the cutest little senior Yorkie. I am literally in the waiting room where they will bring him out after he gets all his medical out of the way. I am also in the virtual queue for an adult Rottweiler, and it sounds like I might get her. So I may have her by the time the work week begins. Anyway, I wanted to say thanks to everyone who was supportive, and also I admit to rubbing my happiness in the face of the trolls who received clear detage. I am petty, sue me, Shio, relevant comments lost, advertising 232. New and happy beginnings. Cheers, OP answer. It's exciting and the people here are so sweet. For the first time in a long time, I am really looking forward optimistically. Loser swim. I feel like there were a lot of things he did that we don't see. OP probably had a hard time differentiating her post-traumatic stress disorder reactions from normal healthy reactions. He does something cruel, and she can't decide if she's seeing his actions as cruel because of post-traumatic stress disorder or because he is cruel. Prestige. No love. It's weird that people are focusing on the abortion even though he raped her. Like he legit took the condom off with false pretenses. And that's one of the definitions of rape. I'm glad she's safe, but I hate that she got so much hate in the first place. Also, he is talking about how Christian he is, but he wanted a baby out of wedlock. He just wanted to control a woman's body, even though she explicitly said she didn't want kids. Salt Pipe, Warner, 89. Also, a lot of people are missing some obvious points about the vasectomy. A lot of heartache could have been avoided here if OP knew that vasectomies don't work that way. He was only able to manipulate her because she didn't know the facts. So in case anyone else is reading for whom this would help, vasectomies are not really reversible. You have to sign a form acknowledging this when you get one. While there is an operation that can attempt a reversal, the success rate is low and gets lower as time goes by. Vasectomies don't take effect immediately. It can take months until you're sterile, and there is always a follow-up check. So it's not a valid form of birth control until after the check. This varies by individual, but vasectomies are generally uncomfortable. It's unlikely that someone who just had one will be up for anything for a little while. A line crossed too far when he claims his boundaries dictate your choices. You have to wonder, is this love or manipulation? My boyfriend says coming in me is a boundary. What should I do? First of all, thank you all for the support. I tried to read almost every message and comment, but there were a lot, so it's hard. Some of you thought I was super naive, and I feel like I needed to just hear the truth straight up, and after posting and reading, I decided to end it pretty quickly. Just for some context, our relationship other than this situation honestly hasn't been great either. We're different races, and his parents don't accept me. He has strict Asian parents. Said he's extremely childish and immature, spends all day playing video games, and we do honestly constantly argue, so the only thing that was good about our relationship was the sex part, and now that that's gone, because of how he's acting, there's truly nothing good left in it. The plan was to break up with him as soon as he got home from work, and of course, today was the day that he was staying late at his job, and I just wanted to get things done and over with because it was eating me up inside. When he finally got home, he just ignored me, and part of me just wanted to ignore him back and not deal with it, but I knew what needed to be done. So I went to our room where he had been since he got off work. He was playing video games, and I told him that we needed to talk, which he rolled his eyes at. You guys said to be as direct as possible, so I told him that I was breaking up with him because he's manipulative and childish. Immediately, you could see the change in his face from smug to scared. He asked if I was seriously going to throw everything away because of a disagreement, and I told him it was bigger than that. He said if I wanted to leave him because I can't fulfill his needs then to go right ahead. So I turned around to leave and he said, wait, this is where I lost it. All the last months boiled over and I said how manipulative and disgusting he was all because he couldn't come in me for a little while. That he was a child and if he couldn't figure out how wrong he was at 26, then there was no fixing him. I also told him how pathetic he was for putting on such a show by crying while watching porn just to try to make me feel bad. He said it wasn't a show, he just was upset that we were fighting all the time and he happened to be watching porn. He also doubled down by saying that coming in his woman is important and brought up his boundaries again. And I told him how much bullshit that is and that he can't set boundaries on my body. Though we were both crying a lot, he then admitted that he acted this way to deter me from taking out my ayid. After that, I left to go to my parents' house and he's tried calling and texting, all apologetic now, but I don't feel the need to ever talk to him again. Now to the next story 2. I just discovered my husband has been telling his coworkers I'm his sister. So what should I do? I need advice. Throwaway account because I don't use or understand Reddit, but I really need advice from someone not connected to me or my husband. But my husband, I'll call him Josh, and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4, and we don't have kids. We have a really healthy and communicative relationship. We're both pretty easygoing, and I really love him. He started working at a large accounting firm about 3 years ago, and from what he tells me, he loves it there. He's made a lot of friends through his job, and he goes out with them for drinks and social events quite often, and I've been totally okay with that. I'm quite introverted, so I've never been interested in meeting his colleagues or work friends, nor have I asked to. I've got my own circle of friends, and I'm fine with us having separate friend groups. After what happened yesterday, it only just occurred to me that he has never actually asked me if I'd like to meet any of them or go to one of his work events. I guess that's important context. Anyway, I'll start with what happened a few months ago that I had brushed off until now. I was at a bar with some friends for a couple of Friday after work drinks, and a guy approached me. He was there with some friends too. He looked slightly familiar, but I hadn't met him before. He seemed friendly enough, and he asked me my name, right? I think I must have just given him a confused look, because he followed up with, "I'm Jake, I work Josh." I realized that I recognized him from some photos on my husband's phone. I don't use social media except for a private Instagram, so I'm not sure if he posted the photos anywhere. But we've got a very trusting relationship, so I look in his photos sometimes. Don't hate me. This is where it gets a bit embarrassing. I'm a bit socially awkward, and so I struggled to end the conversation, but he just kept talking at me. I guess he was already a couple of beers deep, but while he was talking, he said something like, "It's great that you guys are still so close. I haven't talked to my brother in ages." At the time I was like, huh? But I just assumed he was drunk and not making sense, so I ignored it. So he started to get a little flirty, so I turned to my friends and we left shortly after that. I didn't say anything to them about it, and it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I also decided not to tell my husband that I had met his coworker Jake. Not to hide it, but because I figured the guy wouldn't even remember talking to me, and I didn't want to make it awkward for Josh at work by telling him his colleague tried to hit on me. I just thought no harm, no foul. But yesterday morning, I was out walking our dog, Monty. He's a cross between a few breeds and has very unique markings. This matters, I promise. And was on my way to my regular cafe, which is in town. I was waiting in line to order, and the guy in front was an older man. So he got his coffee and turned around, but stopped and looked at my dog and goes, "Hello, Monty." So Monty was super excited to see him, apparently, and so I guessed that the guy was another colleague of Josh's because Josh brings the dog to the office a couple of times a week. I thought it was sweet, to be honest, so I smiled at him and said hi. He introduced himself. I guessed correctly that he was a colleague, but then he said something like, "Aren't you a good sister?" walking his dog for him. I was so confused that I didn't even know how to react at first, so I stumbled on my words and just said, "It's my dog." I regret it, but I genuinely couldn't bring myself to correct him and say that I'm Josh's wife and not his sister. It was just too awkward, and I just wanted to leave because I think was suddenly dawning on me what might have been going on. He asked me something about sharing a dog, but I was able to escape the conversation by being next in line to order my coffee, and he left. I seriously don't know what to do, because what the fuck? Do I even ask my husband about this? Part of me is just assuming or hoping that it's a mistake, that he doesn't talk about me much at work, and they assume we are related because we both have brown hair. But the thought that he has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister, and evidently they have seen what I look like, so they must have seen photos, makes my stomach churn. I don't even know how I would broach the subject with him. I need some help. What would you guys do in this situation? I have only told one friend what happened because it's so weird and embarrassing, and she has jumped straight to time to plot his downfall because she's my ride or die. Love her, but I don't want to immediately assume the worst and or ruin my marriage over something that could be nothing. I'm sorry for the long and rambly post, but I would really appreciate any and all advice. Edit. Holy fuck. Thank you everyone who commented with some advice. I haven't read all of them, but I really appreciate the suggestions from you guys. A small update, Josh came home at about 2:30 a.m. last night, but he was drunk so he'd straight to sleep, which is fine by me because fuck having this conversation in that state. I've just woken up, but he's still sleeping. First thing I just want to clear up. I've seen a lot of people suggesting I have crippling social anxiety, or am severely introverted, which I suppose you could glean from the way I explained what happened, but I'm not. I meant that I'm slightly introverted and that I'm not the most eager to meet lots of new people at once, especially a bunch of finance bros whose weekends consist of unending sports bar beers, where I assume I would be mansplained everything until my ears bleed. Prob a negative assumption, but I'm sure some of you know what I mean. I suppose you could say that I'm confrontation averse and that I'm quite laid back and prefer to keep a conversation easy and positive. IDEC. I don't like it when things are awkward and correcting when people misrecognize me as one of those things, but I'm not terrified of confrontation. So also my husband and I do share some mutual friends. I didn't explain that well, but our lives are not entirely separate. So the way he acts towards me around our mutual friends is extremely affectionate and normal. So it is only his work friends that I have never interacted with. I've also seen some people suggest that what is going on is equivalent to my husband beating me and me hopelessly wondering whether I should break up with him, or that I'm stupid for thinking my relationship was healthy when it clearly isn't. Like, damn, cut me some slack. I'm a real person, and this is an entirely alien and bizarre situation for me. My first reaction wasn't to assume the worst, but I do appreciate that you all have made me certain that it is a big deal. I guess I needed confirmation that the things that happened are enough proof that Josh has been purposefully lying, and they weren't just mix-ups. I'm going to talk to him today and ask him directly why he's telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. I followed the advice of writing my points down so that they don't get lost if I get emotional, LOL. I will do my best not to let him slither out of it, and I hope he has some proof that his colleagues know I'm his wife. I know that's not the theatrical confrontation you guys were hoping for, but it's a Saturday and I can't wait. So wish me luck. Thank you all. Update 1. Hi everyone, I just wanted to say thank you for overwhelming amount of support and advice. I'm blown away, and it really means a lot, and has kept me grounded. I'm sorry for the slow update. I know a lot of you were interested in what happened. I actually tried to update on Saturday, but it turns out this subreddit doesn't allow me to post an update until 48 hours after my first post. I'm also only allowed to post one single update, so I'll try to fit as much as I can here. Sorry for how long it might end up getting him. I'll just get right into it. On Saturday morning, I woke up earlier than my husband. He was very hungover, so he was like sleeping a rock. But you guys will be proud of me because I followed some advice and decided to look through his phone properly while he was sleeping. I have been on his phone so often just pissing around on it that I had never thought to check anything very deeply. I know his passcode by heart. I checked all the expected things like Instagram DMs, Facebook Messenger, his iMessages, etc., and I didn't find anything that set off alarm bells to me. But I know from some comments that people who are cheating are good at covering their tracks and hiding messages, so I kept looking around. I saw he had a folder called Work, and so I looked in there, and he had a couple of Microsoft apps, Outlook, Authenticator, OneIt, etc., but he also had MS Teams. So I opened that up and had a look around. It did feel like I might have been breaking laws looking at his work messages, but I obviously had to. Anyway, I was already upset to see that he had a bunch of one-on-one chats with several female coworkers, which at first glance is obviously not an issue because everyone works with people of the opposite gender and are required to communicate with them. But a couple of them were vaguely flirty, nothing I would call egregious, but there would be the occasional message between them with some playful innuendo or a wink emoji. These upset me, obviously, and they did send me into a bit of a spiral, but I didn't find anything that suggested he was having an out-and-out affair with any of them. Still, I followed someone's suggestion of screenshotting messages, and I airdropped them to myself. I still wanted some evidence of the lie, though. Some proof of Josh telling someone that I was his sister directly. A commenter suggested that I go through his messages and search for keyword sister. I wanted to reply to your comment and say thank you for the idea, but the post was locked, so I couldn't, but thank you. So I searched for sis on his MS Teams, hoping to find results for both sister and sis. A bunch of messages from all hands group chats or one-on-one chats came up from other people, all unrelated and about their own sisters or whatever. But my heart dropped out my ass LOL when I saw there was a direct message from Jake, the guy from the bar, to Josh from a Monday a few months ago. Jake's messages said, "Ran into your sis at the bar on Fry. She's single, right?" And my husband had the fucking gall to reply, "Nah, she's married." I literally almost burst into flames on the spot when I saw that. I can't even describe how much I was shaking after reading those messages. Firstly, that I could have confronted Josh about this months ago, I was and still am, so furious with myself for that. Josh would have been fucking praying I didn't remember meeting Jake or that I wouldn't mention it, and he would have been counting his lucky stars that I never did. He probably thought he was hot shit for getting away with that, and I nearly burnt a hole through the floor thinking about it, LOL. But secondly, I was just in shock that he had the balls to tell this guy that I'm the one who is married because he doesn't want anyone having it on with me, but he is allowed to coyly flirt with every fucking woman in the office. Anyway, I kept going back through the search results on his MS Teams, and eventually I got as far back as 2-ish years ago, and I did in fact find a message from Josh himself to a group chat. It said me and sis in Nusa Dua. I clicked on that and saw that he had sent it alongside a bunch of photos of him and I from our holiday to Bali. We went to Bali for our 2nd anniversary. I thought he probably chose those photos because he's shirtless and had been working out, so he looked hot in all of them. I was in tears seeing all of this. Obviously, I took screenshots of those too and airdropped all of the screenshots to myself. Needless to say, I was devastated and still am to see all of that. I am still struggling to even process it at all. But that all happened on Saturday morning, and I immediately took myself to my friend's house. I'll call her Sophie. I went to her place to cry it out and show her what I found, and she was extremely supportive and probably more furious than me, LOL. At around 1:30 p.m., I got a phone call from Josh, and I hung it up immediately. So he sent me a few messages along the lines of, "Where are you, baby?" I'm ordering food, want some? Sad to not wake up next to you this morning. Guys, I have to reiterate how much I love this man and how fucking heart-wrenching it was to see him still acting like on had gone wrong. It took so much willpower to not just pretend none of it had ever happened and go home to him. I know a lot of you will yell at me or accuse me of being terrified of confronting him about this, which is not true. Please have some empathy. It takes me time to process my emotions, and I wouldn't have even been able to form a sentence if I tried to confront him immediately after seeing those messages. I needed some time away with Sophie to recollect myself, and so I stayed the night at her place. She ordered us Tiny, and she helped me plan how I would confront him. I got a bunch more texts and calls from him as the evening progressed, and I eventually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Sunday morning, I woke up feeling more angry than sad, so I opened my phone and finally replied to his messages. Coming home now, need to talk. I kept it cryptic to make him squirm, to be honest. Because I was fraught with emotions, I can't remember the entire conversation word for word, but I'll try to replay it as best I can. The long story short, I got home and he tried to hug me, but I refused him and we just stood in the kitchen. I did confront him like someone suggested. I just said, "Why have you been telling your coworkers I'm your sister?" I wish it would have been like a movie scene where the color drained from his face, or he immediately looked like a deer in headlights, but he didn't. It was like he had been girding himself for this confrontation for a while because he just frowned at me and looked flabbergasted. He just said, "Huh?" This made me so angry. How are you going to pretend to be stupid after 3 years of lying? I basically said, "Don't play fucking dumb. 2 of your coworkers have greeted me as your sister and I have proof of you telling them. And I know you're pretending to be single." Essentially, I asked him what he had to say for himself. He still played stupid. He became moderately defensive and just kept saying, "I don't know what you're talking about," or "Why would I lie about you?" I cannot describe how furious I was at this point, but I was in tears. I always cry when I'm angry, so he was trying to comfort me as if I was having some kind of irrational breakdown. I showed him the screenshot of his message saying me and sis, and I said something like, "You tell me." He just said, "I don't know what I'm looking at and I'm confused." I got so angry that I left again and went back to Sophie's because it felt like a dead-end road. I didn't think I was going to get him to admit to anything, and I was just getting so furious I couldn't continue. He was really upset and in tears, which to me was evidence that he knew he was lying and that he was going to have to come up with some explanation. He tried to get me to stay, but I told him that until you have something to say for yourself, we've got nothing to talk about. At like 8:30-ish, he called me again and I did pick up. He basically asked for us to talk, and he said he has some things to say. So I went back to our apartment. He had written out a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper as if he had prepared a speech and sat me down on the couch. So he asked me not to say anything while he was explaining himself. I'll write down the gist of what he said in bullet points. He started by apologizing relentlessly and admitting that he pretended to be stupid before because he couldn't immediately think of something to say for himself. He said that immediately after he started at his job, he realized the atmosphere was like a frat house. All of his team members were men in their 20s and 30s that were single and fuckboys. His word. He noticed that the one guy in their team that was married would either get picked on or essentially excluded from any and all social interactions that included getting lunch, inside jokes, going out on Friday, etc. So these guys were friendly and welcoming to Josh, and he admitted that he was desperate to fit in with them. He hated feeling like fresh meat. So he was scared that saying he was married would alienate him from his coworkers, and at first just never mentioned that he was married. So he said he did wear his wedding ring, and that they had just never pointed it out. A few months in, they were all out drinking after work. He admitted that after one of his workmates saw a picture of him, and I on his lock screen, they asked him who I was, and in a moment of panic he said, "My sister." He was really apologetic at this point, and he was crying a lot. He couldn't even look at me, and he was just reading what he had written down. Anyway, he said that from then, he basically dug himself a deeper and deeper grave because they kept grilling him about me and wanting to see more pictures of me. So he said he had let it go on too long and that he didn't have the balls to admit to the lie. They would always bring me up and ask shit like, "Did you give her my number yet?" or joke that they had slept with me, etc. So when he got that message from Jake, he essentially thought it was just him taking the piss, but he didn't like the jokes they were making about me and said that I was married in hopes they would stop. They didn't. So he said that this wasn't the first time he told them I was married. In fact, he had said so pretty much immediately after saying I was his sister. He said that those pictures of us in Nusa Dua were the only pictures that he had purposefully sent them and deliberately lied about after what he called an endless barrage of pestering from his colleagues to share the pics from his holiday. So he said he was really ashamed that he did that. So he told me that he had never had an affair or even considered it, that the messages between him and his female colleagues were banter, and that it was commonplace to talk to people like that in the office. He also said he knows how disgusting it is, and he is embarrassed to have been acting like a fuckboy. Again, his word. He concluded his speech by apologizing again, and said that he was disgusted with himself and ashamed that he had lied for so long, but felt like he had trapped himself and that he couldn't find a way to get himself out of it. He said he knows he could have confessed the truth to either his coworkers or to me at any point, but that he didn't because he was a coward. So he said that he'll confess to his entire office that he lied and that I am his wife and not his sister if I want him to. He said that he will quit his job without a word if it would make me feel better, and that he hopes I can forgive him if I can. Anyway, I couldn't really think of anything to say at that point. He went to lock himself in the bathroom and I just sat on the couch crying. I still don't know if I can trust what he said, and a lie that extreme is just baffling to me. If he can lie like that for so long, what else could he be lying about? But his explanation and apology seemed so sincere and genuine, and I guess to an extent what he said is believable. He has always been extroverted, but very susceptible to peer pressure, especially from other blokes. If nothing else, to me, it's a sign of shocking immaturity. Anyway, I packed a bag and went back to Sophie's, and I'm still at her place as I'm writing this. She said I can stay as long as I need to. So it is that I needed time away from him to think about everything, and whether or not I believe him, or whether I can ever trust him again. So he told me to take as long as I needed, and that he will still be there if or when I get back, he said, even if it takes a year. Right now, nothing feels real. I'm still dealing with the emotional whiplash from all of this, and I can't keep food down or think about anything. I've taken the day off work, and Josh told me he's going to take off the whole week. Sophie and my other friends have told me not to make a decision on anything until my head is clear. I spoke to my parents this morning, and my mom says it's just a bump in the road, but she and my dad adore Josh, so they're pretty biased. LOL. That's where I am right now. I'll take some time before I consider my next steps. I can't say whether I'm leaning towards forgiveness or divorce, but those are really the only options. I kind of feel lost and a void at the moment. That's probably the best way to describe it, just emptiness.